right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage your guest moderator for this evening, Tom Scharpling.
I get the stool. I'll get a nice chair. Hey, let's bring out, who is it again? Chris Elliott and Adam Resnick. Pretty exciting.
That was a good one. That's not even your body, right? From that day, that was.
No, I think it's John.
That was for the VHS thing.
I think it's John Lovett's.
So, how are you guys doing? I guess with the new mics.
Okay. First of all, Tom, thank you so much for doing this. This is like the bonus Tom fucking Scharpling.
Get ready to roll back on these balls.
You needed this, like you know. Okay, but thank you.
No, it's always exciting to be here in Philadelphia.
Coming from someone who grew up in Harrisburg, this is very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, Harrisburg.
How are you, Chris?
Oh, I'm good. How are you? Terrific.
So where in the timeline of you guys working together did this idea first start for Cabin Boy? Because you were doing Get Along.
Take it away, kid.
Well, yeah, we were doing Get a Life, but I don't know, we were talking about this before. I had always, even at Letterman, I sort of had an idea that I wanted to do something on the water. Like, growing up, for some reason, there was this book on my dad's bookshelf called Aku Aku, which was about Thor Heyerdahl, about his adventures. And so I think originally I had like thought of some idea, you know, on a raft or something, you know, trying to go somewhere. But this idea came about because Tim Burton called us out of the blue. We were doing Get a Life, and he called and wanted to talk about maybe doing a kind of a Pee-wee's Big Adventure for the 90s. And I guess,
but not with Pee-wee.
but not with Pee-wee. It probably would have worked with Pee-wee, but you know, Adam and I, you know, I had seen Captain's Courageous a couple of nights before, and Adam had written a really funny episode of Get a Life where I become enamored with some construction workers, and so,
The good thing about that was it was only 22 minutes long.
Right.
So that was...
and so I guess we sort of thought, okay, what if we, you know, put me with a bunch of sailors that are like that? But with Tim Burton, we also added in these creatures because we thought, well, that's what Tim Burton likes.
We were making it for Tim. This is the thing. He was our ticket to things beyond Cabin Boy, so it was all about what he wanted and what we thought he would like.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think we certainly would not have put in, you know, Sharky and or Chalky and Callie and
Which I think when Tim saw that was probably thinking, what the fuck is this?
Right.
We didn't.
No,
it wasn't
we were totally wrong.
This is like
We were totally
this is our
wrong.
version of what we thought Tim would like.
yeah,
You know,
that he'd love a flying cupcake.
Yeah, we were like, we'll show him what imagination is.
So basically what you're saying is Pee Wee Herman got caught jacking it in a movie theater, and then he went down the list.
You
and
hope
were
for
next.
things like that in this
Yeah.
business. Because then opportunity comes your way.
I forgot that was right about that time, a little bit
Yeah.
before. Yeah, that was,
that's- So, so initially you're talking to Tim Burton about this huge, it was gonna be a huge scope to what it was?
No. I think he was doing the second Batman movie, and he was like, I think it was just, in this big refrigerated set with live penguins, and you could see your breath. Although if you go see that movie, you don't see anyone's breath, so they refrigerated it for nothing. But that's what we know that it's true. And, so I think he was at this thing, and I want to go back to doing something small. That was my first movie, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and so he was waxing nostalgic about that, but then he changed his mind later. So it was never really it would have been much more, if he had made Cabin Boy, if he had directed it, I'm sure it would have been a much more expensive movie, but
Well, the budget, the budget was gonna be pretty high, I think, for it, because it was gonna have special effects in it.
Yeah, I mean, probably Beetlejuice high, which is still,
Right,
pretty,
right.
yeah, but not Batman high, right?
Right.
So then he bounces out to go do what, Ed Wood?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, he's, it might have even been before, I forget, it was really out of the blue. When he read the script, he was still on board. He was, he wanted to do it for a short period of time, and then, I don't know why, actually, I don't know why it happened.
I don't either. And I remember talking to him about other things, like he wanted to do some space show. And I remember meeting him at his hotel in New York, and he was like drawing, what he wanted the aliens to look like in the space show, TV show. And I went out to lunch with him, and then it wasn't long after that meeting that he backed out of doing Cabin Boy. I must have said something.
Yeah, I don't know if that was connected. Yeah, it was just, just weird, surreal, bad life. The whole thing came together in such an odd way. That's we've said this a lot. Chris and I were minding our own business doing Get a Life. The phone rings for Chris and his agent saying, "Hey, Tim Burton, he likes Get a Life, but he likes you. He's a fan of yours. I'd love to meet you." And Chris, my best friend still, just said, "Adam, would you want to come with me? Let's go talk to Tim Burton. Let's see what this is all about." And that was the beginning of the end. That was like, it was in The Exorcist in the Iraq sequence when Father Karras finds the little Zuzu thing, and at that moment, as he's brushing it off, way over in Washington D.C., a little girl sleeping. Problems are about to start for her. That's what the Tim Burton call was, right? What do you think?
Absolutely.
That was like, yeah.
It's like the clock stopped.
Yeah, that's right. And we were the little girl who was probably in school in math class, minding her own business. She didn't realize what had just happened in fucking Iraq.
Right.
That's what happened.
Right.
Yeah.
So noises were starting in the attic.
That's right. Exactly.
That were eventually going to be inside us.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I knew it was weird when we sat in his office, and he put his feet up on his desk, and I don't care how anybody dresses, but
You're very open-minded.
I'm pretty open-minded. I don't give a shit. But the guy, I could tell, and I was fascinated by it, that he was wearing jeans that were torn, which I think I was also, but I could tell he was wearing black tights underneath the jeans. And his hair was kind of like Edward Scissorhands, and there was just like, he was sort of playing Tim Burton.
He walked the walk.
Yeah.
He really did.
So then he quits, and then
He told me, yeah.
when do you become the director
Well,
of Cabin Boy?
All in one call, I remember his producer telling me that, so do you want the good news or the bad news? And I'm like, what? And at this point, we had given him the script, we thought he was gonna make it, and literally for me as a writer, I thought, and it's not like I was a huge Tim Burton fan per se. Pee-wee's Big Adventure, I do like that movie a lot, but it was, he's Tim Burton, and it was gonna be great for Chris, and it'd be good for me, good for both of us. But she says the bad news is Tim doesn't want to do the movie, and I'm like, oh. Or no, Tim decided he doesn't want to do it. He says it feels more like you and Chris. It's really you guys. So what do you think the idea of you directing it? And I just remember total disappointment because one, I thought, well, this is bullshit because the thing has just died. Tim Burton's not directing the movie. And as far as me directing it, I said, well, no, I've never directed anything. She goes, oh, we'll get people to help you with that. And I'd like to thank all those people officially right now. And so with me, it was, I really was, you know, sort of honest with myself that I didn't think I could do it. And also it was Chris's, at this point, Cabin Boy was something that we had created for Tim, not for ourselves. If Chris and I were, let's say, going to write a movie or do a movie together, it would not have been Cabin Boy. I don't know what it would have been. But I was disappointed, but then, I don't know, things just progressed from there. Chris was very sweet, stupidly too sweet, and said, you know, yeah, kid, you should do it. Come on, it'll be great. And then, you know, the agent said, how are you going to pass this up? And I admit that I started to get swept up in it and thought, oh, well, okay, maybe I can do it. But my original instinct, the gut instinct, was the correct one, which is I should not have done it. And I say, I fall on my sword. But that was that piece of it, though, as far as how I eventually, you know, got on as director.
Sure. And you.
But it wasn't, I mean, that's something you can't turn down. You can't, you know, this
Now
now, in retrospect, you should
of course, but it was a hard thing to turn
Yes.
down. Yes. And I'd like to, again, officially apologize to you for ruining your
Finally.
life. But I know.
Finally.
But we went down together, okay? We both, we went down holding
No,
hands.
I took you down
Good
with
friend.
me too, kid. No,
It was a team
that's,
effort, team effort.
Yeah.
So that, you can both leave now, I guess. The apology went down.
That's right.
That's what this is all building toward.
No, there was some article about Cabin Boy online, and he pointed out that, and it's the first time I sort of even thought about this, that neither one of us has ever blamed the other for Cabin Boy, even though
Well, tonight might be
you
the
know,
night. Speak your
I'm
mind,
I'm
kid.
actually starting to get pissed off.
I've been waiting for this catharsis for all these years.
That was my shot.
That's,
Why the fuck did you direct it?
You told me I should have. That's. I know. It's awful. I don't know
I was
what to
just
say.
being nice. I was just being a friend. I think you'd really do it.
I tried to get out of it, for the record. I did.
Yeah. Not hard enough.
No. Well, it's all water under the bridge.
All that.
Two ruined careers.
No, we really did not have a good time at all. Yeah, it is interesting. I would say there was not one good day on it was all about you and I, like, what the fuck did we just do today? And we didn't know.
No, we would go home. I would go back to the hotel, and I had a bad back. I had back surgery, so I was like,
That's right.
you know, in pain most of the day. But I can remember, like, you know, usually when you're doing a comedy, you know, at least the crew laughs a little bit. And I just remember people just like frowning and
we were
checking their equipment and just like, you know, pulling cable and all that, but nobody laughed.
They really hated us. They hated us. And also, I mean, everyone down the line from the grip up to Jeffrey Katzenberg were just like, you know, had no idea what the fuck this was. I mean, they were really scared when the dailies were coming in, as they should have been. But and there was no. That's the interesting thing. It was made for Disney Touchstone at a time where they were cranking out a lot of sort of like B comedies, and I think they just, you know, they thought it would be like that, and they'd burn it off and make a few dollars. But it was. I don't think they expected that it would be just this puddle of vomit or whatever it turned into.
It's not, though. So that's the whole thing with this. You can't let dummies tell you that this is bad.
But at the time, though, Dummies was basically the entire world. This was
and it still is. It still is mostly dummies.
Yeah, no, that's true. I know it was.
But this came out when, you know, comedies were these bigger comedies with, like, you know, Jim Carrey. They were these sort of, you know, very funny comedies, but this movie came out and it just pissed people off.
That was the thing. They didn't just hate it; it pissed them off. And also, and decided that we were gonna, like, I don't know, why the hell were they interested in attacking us? We were like I was especially below anyone's radar, you know? It's not like they were gonna, Chris Elliott, we're gonna fucking knock him down a few pegs. He's been, like,
yeah, I mean,
arrogance of that.
we both have talked about this for years. We have theories, but I don't know why either. I mean,
I've always thought with this movie and the perception of it, and that people feel that at that time especially they had free reign to just take a shot at it for whatever it represented. I think it's because people thought they were smarter than something that was actually smarter than them. They didn't realize that the movie's actually smart. But it seems dumb. It seems dumb if you just look at the poster and you see a moron hanging on an anchor, and then you're just like, oh, that's stupid.
Yeah, maybe.
And they think they're smarter than something dumb because they've already had so much garbage shoveled their way and felt burned so many times that they finally think they spotted one that's gonna suck before they get tricked. and they were so wrong that it was actually something great the whole time that was playing dumb.
But it didn't even seem like anybody wanted to try to understand it, though. It seemed, and honestly, I mean, I'm not sure we could have explained it back then, though. I'm not sure we were pulling the wool over anybody's eyes. But I think it was a challenging thing. It wasn't. The jokes weren't, the kind of jokes that people were used to seeing in movies at that time.
And there's stretches, long stretches between maybe a chuckle and then maybe a bigger laugh, and then where people were used to, I think, getting a little more for their money.
Well, I mean, there's two different, and I think, even Get a Life had moments that weren't just punchlines, but were amusing. Which to me is just as great as something that actually physically makes you laugh. Just something that is amusing looking or amusing feeling or whatever, but not to get heavy. Sorry.
No.
What?
But no, it isn't. I think also, it's sort of impossible to explain unless only Chris and I, we were in lockstep. We were together through every bit of it, the aftermath, and I think we remained friends and even stronger friends, I think, as we went through this. But it was very confusing because what Tom's saying is interesting. That's interesting. What I don't get is, it is. But the thing that is, people then who might have said that, let's say, the worst Pauly Shore movie is a piece of shit. This is what confused me back then. Would lump Cabin Boy in with that movie, and I, for a long time, and I think Chris agreed, I mean, I was brainwashed into thinking, so I guess, I can't believe it, that wasn't the intention, but I guess we just made some really lame, shitty comedy, and we're sort of like movie snobs, and it's not like I think that we thought that we had made this something great, but I didn't think we had made a lame comedy, just a weird one.
No, and I actually thought as we finished the movie, and even when it came out and bombed, I sort of thought, all right, well, the next one won't. We've learned our lesson.
How'd that work out for you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I did not realize. But, I mean, I think the kind of movies that you're talking about, the Biodome movies or those kind of things, I think those people did go on to do other movies,
Well, they were ultimately more, I
guess.
guess, user-friendly. They were some of those movies, whatever,
Right.
were not. But,
Right.
but yeah, you're right. Like, Ace Ventura was the big movie that year, and that's quite a different movie than Cabin Boy.
Some really funny Adam Sandler movies, but they're totally different. They're not like they don't challenge you. They don't.
Yeah, but kid, at least they entertain people.
I will give you that. They entertain people. But I think Cabin Boy just really challenged people, and also
that's
in kind of a nasty way. Kind of like, do you know this reference? Do you have any idea what we're parroting at this point or what we're doing? And half the time we didn't know. So.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. It's like that people. This is what's unique about Cabin Boy is that it was not. We weren't upset because people didn't respond well to our labor of love. It wasn't really our labor of love. We fell into a situation that then was handed completely to us, and we sort of made the best of it, wouldn't you say? You know, it wasn't like,
Yeah.
and so therefore, it's you're sort of in this weird place of feeling bad about something that maybe it wasn't something we had all this passion for to begin with. Once we were handed the opportunity, we made the best of it as best as we could, but it wasn't something that we hatched and brought, you know.
Was
yeah.
it making you laugh while you were making it?
And to Chris, seriously, Chris always makes me laugh. If you look back to Letterman days when I was just an intern at Letterman. I mean, and I remember seeing the first like rough cut that the editor did, and I thought it was great. And I thought Chris was fucking hilarious in it, and I called him, and said, you know, kid, you're a star. Come on out to LA, and you know, get what you're gonna get what you deserve.
And I listened to you.
Then there was but I look. That's something that I recently have sort of remembered. That, oh yeah, I actually did like that movie at one time before the first disastrous screening, because it was all, you know, downhill after that, where an entire theater in Pasadena pretty much cleared out. So it was,
like a
I no
test
longer,
screening?
yeah, that's first test screening, which was, it was in a pretty big theater, you know, and in Pasadena, and it was awful. I felt myself getting feverish, you know, as people walked out and they're muttering things like, I heard someone, I always remember some guy just saying to his girlfriend, fucking cheesy. And now that's interesting because, well, yes, but that's part you understand. It's supposed to look, the sets, but they, you know, I think they thought that, I don't know what the fuck they thought, but I went to my former agent afterwards after clear out, and I was so upset, and I said to him, oh my God, because the theater had cleared out, I said, do you think this is going to get around? And he gave me a big hug and said, yeah, this is going to get around. I was driving away from that. I was with one of the PAs who actually was driving. It was driving me home. It was driving me back to wherever the fuck I was staying from Pasadena. And at one point, I told him you might have to stop the car because I think I'm going to throw up. I didn't, thankfully. But, so I'm a man. I did it.
Well, let's talk about something more positive about this.
Sure.
Experience. What was that set like? Describe that set.
In what sense?
Just where was it, and how big was that boat, and all of the, like, I know the water.
Chris, just get
It's
to the
not really
story.
talking about something more positive.
Well, Chris would like now. There's a great story that Chris might enjoy telling about when he drank urine. Go.
Well, I mean, we shot, I don't know, a couple of weeks in a tank, what they called a tank, and were we in Santa Clarita? Where that was?
Or Long Beach, maybe. It was in
I
a
don't know, it's
disgusting
wherever-
warehouse where you shouldn't. The acoustics were awful. A lot of it had to be 80 yard.
Yeah,
so it was-
and we shouldn't have been shooting there, but it was for that whole raft sequence when I'm on a raft, and there's a beautiful Adam Resnick overhead shot that with me going crazy on the raft, and you can actually see the sandbags underneath holding the raft.
They didn't get those out of the way.
Because there was only 3 feet of water,
Yeah.
and I was surrounded by grips who were just standing, holding things, lights and stuff.
Throughout the day, even between shots,
in
the
their
grips would be in there.
wetsuits, and you know they were just urinating in the water. And we got to that point where I'm thirsty and have to drink seawater.
And we realized.
I said to you, well, what do we rig that for me to do that with? How are we going to do it?
And I went to the producer and said, yeah, what does he spit? Where's the thing where that he and they couldn't figure out how to do it. And at the end of the day, it was
That had never come up in a production meeting? Was that...
Well, and you would just think that would be basic, like how they do it. And finally, the producer was just like, he's gonna have to drink the water. I mean, and yeah, you were, yeah.
And there were guys standing right next to me that have been there for like 3 hours. I know they had urinated. I could see gum on the bottom of the thing.
I think the urine was the least of it. I mean, that water was disgusting.
Well,
It'd
it
been there
wasn't
for
like a
decades.
pool.
Yeah,
It wasn't
no.
chlorinated. There
Yeah.
wasn't.
Right, yeah.
wasn't-
They just filled it with a hose.
Filled it with a
Filled it with a
hose.
hose, and then we shot for 3 weeks on it.
Yeah, there was
in the same fucking bath water
That's right.
that these guys were standing in.
So it's like a bird bath.
Yeah.
Right, that's it, yeah.
It's a bird bath.
And to this day, you don't drink water anymore, right?
No. Can't go near it.
So you drank some piss and
I did.
thing and the gummy.
Well, I mean, we had to get the shot, and I was just, all right, I'll just do it. I don't know. And I cringe, or I did cringe. I haven't watched the movie a lot, so
Yeah, me
but
neither.
the time I've seen it, I always cringe because I always remember like just going,
Yeah.
oh my god.
Just the drive getting there, it was really not, it's just, and it was,
Nobody's
a
gonna
hard
feel,
set,
nobody's gonna
and-
feel
and
sorry
then-
for you about the drive.
what?
Nobody's gonna. He drank piss, and then you were stuck in traffic.
It was just a long, and first I'm not a morning person, folks, which it turns out if you're a director, you probably shouldn't direct if you're not a morning person. So, I'm getting there just as this, the drive to wherever the fuck was, Santa Clarita or Long Beach, there were different places. And just being so tired and thinking, oh, I'm gonna get to that set at the tank again. And it was just, there was nothing, there wasn't a lot of passion. That's the thing. So right there, that should have been a bit of a hint. But I know, once we got there, we tried to do something.
But the boat itself too was kind of a hard, because you have to shoot it.
There's like
You
a-
shot it one direction, and then was it because of the backdrops they didn't, and then they had to turn the boat around the other
Yeah,
way
I know,
to
it's
get
like-
the op
yeah.
end. We had to shoot it.
I don't think
again.
anyone knew what they were doing. Right, it was, and it was,
You would think the director would know what they're doing.
but there wasn't a director, so.
What about the captain getting?
I mean, there was-
getting on the boat over this tank. They had to get a cherry picker to
for Rich Brinkley, who
for
played the
Rich
captain,
Brinkley
yeah.
to raise him over the water and get him onto the to the boat. Did he come with his own cherry picker?
I don't know. That's interesting. It's interesting that they figured how to get him on the boat, but you still had to drink urine.
Right,
That's-
exactly.
So let's talk about the cast of the movie. It's got to be one of the best casts that you could put together for
I
something.
do like the actors were the best part about it, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that come together? These people for those parts.
It's just, Brian, we wanted from Get a Life, right?
Yeah, Rich had been in that
Rich.
construction worker show that we had done.
He plays the
from Get a
captain,
Life.
Brinkley, yeah.
We always liked Brian James, liked his work. James Gammon,
Yeah, he was-
I knew who he was, but you met with him and
Yeah, I really
year or
liked
so.
him. I think we were trying to get Emmett Walsh, who was one of these guys that just kept asking for more money, like this movie was ever going to pay much, and I remember him telling me something about, it's like, then he was going to do it, and then finally he blew it off because they wouldn't give him the money he wanted. I was doing Blood Simple with Joel and Ethan, and I wasn't going to do it. They said, there's no money in it, but we'll give you a piece of the movie. And I said, well, 0 times 0 is 0. And so eventually I guess they had to give him money and pay him on set with cash every day. So, but it didn't work out with Emmett Walsh. And I liked Jim Gammon better. He was great.
Yeah. It's a very unhealthy looking cast.
But yeah, that's what we talk about. That's the one thing that I'm proud of to this day, and may have been one of the hints, the pieces, the clues. Is it is probably a present company excluded. It's the ugliest cast in the history of movies. There's no eye candy in that movie. This is before. There's no James Franco. There's no anything like that. It was like
Laura Walters. There's
Laura
some-
looked nice. She
Yeah.
was nice, but she was great and quirky in a great cabin boy way. But the 4 guys, that's something you would never get away with now. 4, well, you were the youngest one, but they're middle-aged guys. I mean, what kid is going to
we
go
were
see
all
that
ugly.
movie?
We were all- it was looking- it's just- it's an ugly looking movie.
Now this is I will say and Chris had he was a thinker. He wanted to be in shorts and have a wig.
I
and
don't
that's
know what the fuck that was.
that I know, which is
That was one thing that actually Tim Burton tried to talk me out of, was wearing the shorts. And I said, why? And because I said Freddie Bartholomew does in Captain's Courageous. And he actually brought up a Martin Short movie with Charles Grodin.
It's Clifford. It's fine.
that's a notorious.
But he said there's something wrong about an adult dressed like a child. This is the man who is wearing black tights under his jeans. But So I was firm about that. I have no idea where the wig came from. I'm sorry. I
Wait,
I
that was
just
the script, the christening wig.
right, but I don't know
But then
why
you
we
lose it.
came
Actually,
up
that was
with
only
that.
part of it.
I don't know why we thought that was funny.
Yeah.
And then,
I think we
and
were
then
all mildly suicidal. We didn't
the sort
know.
of the accent was.
Oh, we
which
talked about
so
that,
many
went
people
back and
tried
forth.
to talk me out of.
Remember, but we had a big like talk about should you just do it at like the the
Like get a life.
get a life,
like
the
me.
letter you or the accent.
Or like for
But I, in the back of my mind, I really thought you thought this was awards bait, and you wanted to really
Yes.
show it was time to.
No, it's time to stretch.
I wonder what Nathaniel would say about all of this now, Chris. Is there
Oh,
any?
it's all just I can't even do that. Fuck it.
Isn't the
Why
voice?
the fuck did I do that?
The
voice?
voice is essentially your mother, right? A combination of it was like sort of like
Yeah,
your
well,
mom's
my mother,
voice.
who is from
Oh, like-
was from West Virginia, and then came to New York in like the '40s, and lost her West Virginia accent, but then ended
very
up talking
upper-
with kind of a very harsh way of speaking. Well, I don't know about that, and that's sort of where that.
I
came
didn't think
from.
the audiences, for some reason, didn't have a lot of sympathy for your character, which is
Which is a good thing in movies for the main character to be sympathetic.
a little bit. I think they like when you finally got laid. That was like a moment.
That does
made it,
people do like say these pipes are clean.
Yeah. So you're getting rich off of that, are you? These pipes are clean.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
No,
So-
yeah, people.
Seriously, we were just saying backstage, this is like the Stan and Ollie tour.
Yeah.
Just like the
Oh, imagine-
end of our careers.
This is
Still
if,
talking about it.
if we're the misfortune to live to that old age where like Oliver and Hardy were on, this is your life. Holy shit! Picture that. This is what we're gonna still be doing. It's like, and I never wanted to do it, but they pushed me.
I guess we'll get ready to take a few questions from people here, so you can get your.
That's all you have,
Thinking
Tom?
caps. No, I'm telling them to get ready while I ask a couple more.
I still have Tom saying, I wonder what Nathaniel would say. He gave you such a great opening, and you didn't. No, but
Oh
you
my
did.
God.
You had a chance to really run with it. All right.
Yeah.
I want to say hi
So-
to the balcony.
Let me just say, yeah.
This is a great space. Actually, it's really cool.
It is cool.
How long is this?
It's been a formal. It's a cool building. It's like a really super old building.
How long has this been going on? How long is it? 8 years?
Tonight's the final night. This is. I
Well,
figured they'd go out with a bang.
that's right.
So, when you look at this now, what is it, 25 years now, this thing?
45.
45 years
Feels
ago.
like it, yeah.
And it didn't click with people then, but now it's got this growing thing that people legitimately appreciated for what it actually is and not what, Owen Gleiberman said it was or some dickhead like that.
Lieberman.
However,
However, I would say that's true, and all those people are literally here tonight. This is
no, this is
it.
not it. This is not it.
I'm very this is,
Do you take any comfort from that it has found a second life to where it's on Blu-ray now in a nice thing, and there's people actually go sit in a theater to watch it when they could have just sat and watched the Blu-ray that they wanted to see it on a screen, and there's people appreciate it for what it actually is.
Incredibly gratifying.
It
for
is.
me.
It's,
I never in my wildest dreams would have imagined this.
right. At least it didn't take long.
No.
But the thing is, I think we're also, because we think the same, put it in context of like, it has, and how nice for everyone that showed up tonight. But it has a, there you go, thank you. It has I guess, a
Except you.
cult following, but I would say, you know, not the largest following, and then half of you fuckers, I think, just like it because it's so bad it's good. You're
See, that's
laughing
what
at
we-
it.
I was there at the beginning.
The way that, you know, the way that I enjoy Mommy Dearest, that's how you're watching that. And that hurts a little bit.
There's nobody here that's watching this because it's so bad it's good.
No, but it is nice, it is gratifying, and it's,
No, we
I never
wish
would've
you had
thought
been
it.
around, and you know, when did it come out?
I don't have no
95,
idea.
94?
Sometime.
Yeah, I mean, because this movie was made for you.
That's right. This was our love letter to all of you.
And you guys were all, you know, 5 years old.
No, it is interesting though. I am curious because I think, which is interesting, it did have this afterlife on video that we did not, you know, I never thought that would be anything, you know. But and it's not like it was a huge bestseller. But I think that a lot of the Cabin Boy fans did not see it in the theater, saw it after on video, and it became a thing.
Well, I think also just culturally, there's an interest in things that are more independent-minded than, you know, the kind of comedies that were coming out when this was out, and that people are more willing to, you know, try to, you know, enjoy something like this. Yeah. And I think also a couple of times I've seen it or seen bits of it and then switch the channel as fast as I could on cable.
Yeah, I do that too.
It looks interesting on television. It has this strange sort of mesmerizing thing, like you want to go, what the fuck? What is that? But it's I don't know, for me as a performer, you know, and also because this is the biggest thing in our lives, I think, you know, that had the biggest effect. I'm not speaking for you, but let me speak for you here. On our and negative effect on our lives, so and careers.
Psychically, well, but I think psychically more than anything.
Yeah, and emotionally and mentally and well,
Not to cry
physically
about it. You'd
too,
have to
but-
be there. You'd have
See,
to be
I told you,
there.
Tom, I was going to start to cry at some point.
No, it was it's hard for people to understand how awful it felt, the reception it got, but also the strange notoriety, which it had it was, you know, it should have just been forgotten. Like if it was just a shitty comedy that came out, a $10 million comedy or something like that, there's a lot of movies back then and now that come out that they just go away and that's it. But for some reason this was, and pre-internet yet, this had this notoriety as being like the worst, shittiest movie ever made. And who cares for this amount of money? Because it's like, I can understand Heaven's Gate or Ishtar, like that becoming a story. Cabin Boy became famous, it still is, I think, maybe to some degree synonymous, you know, a term you would use for bad movie. Like if you're like, well, you know, I mean, the movie was bad. It wasn't Cabin Boy bad, but it was okay. But it was really, you know, it was, and so that was hard for both of us, you know.
But look, if you were to do a thing of whatever was popular in 1994, right?
Yeah.
So this is literally, is this the actual 25th anniversary weekend of the movie?
This is the
coming out?
actual day.
What
I
I
think
was
it came
told,
out. Is it-
by Eric, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
So
know that.
literally 25 years to the day
To this day, yeah.
the movie came out.
It was
That's exciting.
that. The other thing too, the other almost supernaturally strange thing about it is that opening weekend on the East Coast. I can remember in New York, it was like the worst ice storms it was like the worst weather. Saturday into Sunday, you know, so there weren't going to be a lot of people showing up anyway in theaters, but it knocked out even, you know, the few that were going to show up. So there were theaters, like you hear all the time, sometimes I do, and you people might be the people we hear this from will say, I was there opening night and me and my friend were the only ones in the theater. It's like I hear that from everyone.
It's like an inverse Woodstock. That's right. I was there and no one else was.
That's exactly right. First Woodstock, that's great.
But it's like, if you were to take like whatever, Liar Liar and something, nobody's going to come out and see that in a theater anymore. You could do that in a phone booth and
Now
still
you
have
mean,
room.
or
Yeah,
something,
exactly.
yeah.
20-something
Yeah.
years later,
Yeah.
people care about this because they get it and they see what it is. And I can only say me and all of my friends would never have done what we were doing if this did not exist. So I thank you
Well,
for making this.
That's what I mean. Thanks, Tom. When I was here, by the way, or the first time I ever here, when I, someone like you liked that you liked Cabin Boy or Get a Life, and it would always make me feel, well, Tom Scharpling, that's like a cool, funny guy. That's so it's that sort of thing. I think for Chris and I both when we were here.
I'm still trying to eat shit like this. They still haven't let me do it yet.
Well, that's
So.
you don't want to play the game.
Oh, that's what it is.
Come on.
Thank you. Well, let's take some questions. How about that? This guy right up front first.
How did you get Ricky Lake to play the front of the boat?
Well, Ricky Lake, it was funny. She was so sweet. I don't know why, because like she had to go with that awful makeup, and like Chris remembers that she was like around that time she'd be getting this makeup. She was totally sweet.
It
No
was
lines.
like 2 weeks before she got her talk show.
Yeah, she didn't know
It was
that.
like-
But she didn't know at the time. She was, I'm going to try to do
Yeah.
this talk show,
Yeah.
and then she was,
And she had to
great
be in
success.
like makeup for like 6 hours
Yeah.
or some
Yeah.
ridiculous thing.
God, yeah. What happened to Ricky? Like, is she still doing stuff? Or
I don't know.
She was like, I don't know.
What are you looking at me for?
I thought because you have a subscription to us. I don't.
All right, who else has a question?
Ann Magnuson, by the way, was the same thing. She was who played Callie. She was just really nice, and although we did hear afterwards she wasn't too happy about the blue paint.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it was more than the blue paint, but it
Well,
was just.
yeah.
Yeah, no, she was. They were.
I think she was
yeah.
allergic
Oh,
to
you know
the
who
blue
was a
paint.
sweetheart was Russ Tamblyn.
Oh, he was
Yeah.
great.
He was so. That guy was so supportive and so nice. You remember the people that were really nice to us, and he
Right.
was one. And he
Well,
was,
yeah, all the actors were. It was the crew that hated us. But,
Well, it was just like the studio, the crew. I mean, some
the
of the crew was
studio,
okay, but
yeah.
it was. But yeah, Russ Tamblyn said to me, I said, "Thanks so much for doing that." And he said, "Well, I was already a Jets, and now I get to be a Shark." It's a West Side Story joke, but that's how he said it.
Guy over there.
So, it's a movie that really kind of pushes people, pushes the audience. I imagine it pushed executives and probably test screening audiences. Were there any parts that had to be modified or were removed, or that you really fought for to keep in?
Well, actually, a lot was removed. I mean, and some for good reason too. I mean, I don't know what the first cut was at the preview, but it was quite a bit longer than 80 minutes. But no, Disney, their philosophy, I think, at that point, the edict was that they wanted just almost everything cut out. They wanted it to be the point where could it end up that there's just no movie at all. So, but there was a lot of stuff cut out. I would say, I don't know, Chris, if you agree, probably most of that should have been cut out. Other little bits and pieces of nuance, I think, should have stayed. But
The ending of the movie, there was a final shot of all of us after I've ridden Melora back out to the boat, of all of us on the bow of the Filthy Whore with Ricky Lake, right there, and all a very dramatic, beautiful shot.
stage,
by
like very
Adam.
1940s, yeah.
And wind in our hair and just dramatic, that seemed, like a nice note to end the movie on.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
guess
Tim-
Tim Burton didn't want that.
He said,
And
he
it's
was like in some kind of a mood. I don't know, but he said because that shot at least sort of, I thought it ended on like a pretty good this hero shot. It ended on
And
a
it
good
also
note.
set it up for a sequel.
Yeah, that's right. That Chris and I, what we often refer to as Boy 2, the
Yeah.
sequel, whatever that. But
Believe it or not, we were on the set at one point talking about that.
Boy
talking
2,
about,
yeah.
doing something, in a hot air balloon. Around the world in 80 days or something.
Hey, if there's any executives out here who are now like the movie, we'd like to talk to you about the balloon picture. But no, but yeah, Tim Burton, that last. Tim Burton, I remember him saying about that go with the because that actually it was one of the few things in the screenings that always got a laugh the first time they see Chris stand riding Belore Walters. But so yeah, he said no, just go out on that, go out on the laugh, and. Now in retrospect, it's like, Tim, they weren't fucking laughing at that necessarily at the end, but yeah, it would have been nice to have that last shot.
But that was about as much as we could.
However,
fight for.
I sort of, but in a way, the thing that gives the movie its weird kind of cabin boy feeling that for nice people like you who seem to enjoy it. I actually think the end now, which I thought, God, the music is a little too melancholy and it doesn't have this great shot. I think that weird note it goes out on kind of is like, fitting for Cabin Boy. It just kind of works. It's not a big laugh, but yeah.
Who else has a question? Way in the back.
Can we stop talking about this movie as a fail?
I agree with you.
Honestly, I'm not joking around. That is so nice of all of you. I'm serious because it doesn't make me feel better on the, go back in the sense that no, it'll be forgotten after I walk out of here and I'll just still be down on, right? Don't you think, Chris? It doesn't last for some reason. I think about it a little bit, but in this moment, I am thanking you all so much. So much. And I'll be wanting to hang myself again in about 20 minutes.
Hi, Eric. I'm Chris.
I've been a big huge fan of yours for a long time.
Oh, thanks.
Me and my father used to watch Get a Life, and my mom hated it. We would laugh. My dad loved your dad. He thought your dad was the funniest. And how great was it to work with your father so many times? And what did he think of this movie?
It was great working with him. It was a sweetheart. He was just on Get a Life and in Cabin Boy. He was just a very sweet man and a sweet father. I'm not sure that he was a fan of this movie. I'm not sure.
He was very picky, wasn't he, when it came to movies?
Not really. He was pretty specific. I'm not sure my dad ever totally understood what I was doing, but he appreciated it. And that's why he did Get a Life. I'm not sure he totally understood, the idea of being in his pajamas in every episode. But he went along with it for me, and what can you say when a dad does that for you? And I remember my mom in LA calling me. I was in LA because Adam had told me to come out because I was going to be a movie star. Yep. And she called me and just said, "Well, we saw your movie." And that was it.
You're just supposed to use your imagination.
Yeah.
I recently found that we were cleaning out my parents' house, and my mom kept a scrapbook of any time that I maybe would have been mentioned in something, but there was, what I still don't get, I told Chris, I just found it recently, she had like a little Cabin Boy scrapbook full of shitty reviews. I think it was just because his name's in it, but I'm looking at the fucking headline, Cabin Boy sinks. And then he's like, never give these guys a camera again. My son. My dad, who they I think helped jinx, it's the Resnick curse. I think they helped jinx it a little bit. My dad was, and I told him, just be very low, don't talk to people about this movie. I don't know what it is yet. But he couldn't shut up, and he would just go to the grocery store literally, and I would hear that he was telling people, Adam's directing a movie, and let me tell you right now, Spielberg ain't shit compared to Adam. So that's Pazuzu again, another Pazuzu at that moment. It's like, we were fucked, we were so jinxed, Thank you.
Who else has a question?
Obviously you came up through David Letterman and he appeared in your movie. I'm curious, was there any attempt to get him to play a character of any kind? Because he seemed very Dave-like in his...
I think he thought he was playing a character. That's as far as he would go. No, but didn't he ask you before we showed or do you want me to do this as an old man?
Well, no, he did the smart version of what you and I didn't do, talking about your accent. It was about, he was very smart. It was like, maybe should I do it like this, or then I said, I don't know, you just do it like Dave. Like Dave, so you want me to do it like Dave? But then he did it like Dave. And
right.
Actually, and I didn't think, he could have done it either way and it would have been funny, but you should have just done it like Chris probably in retrospect. Yeah. But, that was something else I remember from the screening is it was pure death until the Letterman scene, which is fairly early on. Then Dave came on, did his scene, and huge laughs, gigantic applause, and then death again. But then, as it kept going minute by minute, the anger in the room when people realized that Dave ain't coming back. Yeah, it was Chris in bed with a guy and all that kind of shit with the ashes on the head. Yeah.
Who else has a question?
Was there a lot of living in the film?
I don't really remember a lot. I mean, maybe here and there we would
If anything,
change.
just maybe you, whatever.
Yeah, we changed.
Oh, your
some
little
things.
song, a little French song you did.
Yeah, which
that
I
was
still have
you
not
did.
gotten, residuals for. I wrote that little.
Yeah, I know. Kid, I'm gonna make a call on Monday because that's
Can you?
bullshit.
Because
Yes,
seriously,
you should
at
get
this
some
point,
down.
I should
I'm
get
calling
some down.
ASCAP.
Yeah, Paul Williams is the president. Paul Williams on the phone.
No, there was. I don't think there was a lot. Honestly, we
pretty
had a table
descriptive.
read of the script. I remember, and usually at a table read, when you read the first draft, or I guess this was the first draft, or maybe it was the second of a script, then you make notes as you do it, and you make changes. I don't think we changed anything from the table read.
So was that a good idea?
No.
I don't think we. But the first,
No.
by the way, the first draft I think was 156 pages.
Yes.
So I know for what ended up being an 80-minute movie, it didn't shoot. We didn't shoot 156. But as you pointed out about the budget, which is interesting.
Well,
that
yeah,
they
when Tim Burton stepped aside, the budget, which would have been, I don't know, what would it have been?
I don't know what the number would be. More than what? More,
It would
way
have been
more
pretty like 30 million?
I don't know. Probably not that
because
much.
of the special effects and Tim Burton and everything. I don't know.
I have
But
no idea.
anyway, the budget went down to like 12,
10, I think.
10 million.
Maybe 8 or 10.
But the script did not change. So
Whereas part of why, by necessity and what we thought, then we did want it to look kind of cheesy, so then that it ended up working or not working, on that level. But it was, yeah.
yeah, it was a lot of the stuff was actually cheap. It wasn't just made to look cheap. It
Right.
was cheap.
But and often just more cheap than we wanted to look.
Right, yeah.
Who else here?
Do Hot Dog Boy.
Hot dog boy.
Sharon.
What?
What?
And Sharon.
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 From Sharon. Get a Life?
I'm seriously.
I'm suddenly
I think,
scared shitless.
yeah.
Yeah. Was there a metal detector here?
My name is Sapphire.
What's that?
My name is Sapphire.
Oh, Sapphire. Yeah, get up. Thank you. Again, that's, by the way, something else. And Tom, this is.
Prince
Let me
Paul.
ask you this. That you'll appreciate. This is interesting because this is the other thing that was disappointing. I don't know if you felt this way, Chris, but I didn't think people who like Get a Life. My sense was, and I think it was true. Get a Life fans did not like Cabin Boy. They were disappointed. I think then they got to like it more, and that made me also. No? Oh, really? I love you guys.
Way better than Cabin.
It's that's okay.
Wait, you said it's better?
Get a Life way better than Cabin.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Well,
Now I'm back to where I was.
Exactly.
Thanks for getting me back to my baseline. Actually, I'm pretty. But you know something? At the end of the day, Get a Life was. Yeah, I mean, of the episodes that were good, and there were many that were good. It was.
Remember the hole? You got shot. There's a big
all right.
hole.
Okay. Shut the fuck up. Let's get a question from in the back there.
And everyone in the 3rd grade knew Get a
All
Life.
right, please, seriously. The young man standing up in the back.
Hey, so there's like a lot of standout parts, like the cupcake, obviously, and like these pipes are clean and the giant and all that stuff. So they all stand out pretty, like a lot. So when you were making it, did you think like one of these was like especially good? And then looking back on it, are you glad like any specific ones were in it now? Like when you look back on it.
You mean the special effects?
Like, do you think like the cupcake is still awesome or something?
I mean, people seem to like it. I have no opinion on the cupcake.
Like, what I mean is, with
I like
negative
cupcakes.
opinions,
I'm
is
sorry,
there
what?
Sorry, I mean with your negative thoughts
Yeah.
on it. or
No, I
whatever,
think it's fine.
is there still one
No, well, the cupcake specifically is a joke that obviously seemed to work. Chris riding the girl is Laura Walters, the girl. That looked funny. I mean, the stuff that you sing your French
I
song.
think Callie looked great, and Ricky Lake looked great. There were a couple of other things that got cut because we didn't have the budget to shoot it. Like, wasn't there some sequence with like a half man, half lion or something? Or
Oh, no, it's like a lion and some other creature that were,
Like-
I know that Nathaniel sees in the woods. Why are you in the woods?
I don't know. And then there was a field of, it was supposed to be like in the Wizard of Oz, the poppy field in the Wizard of Oz.
Oh, with the
that
bubbles, yeah.
There was supposed to be just these bubble plants that, bubble, but to do it, they just.
That was a laugh riot.
The prop guys just had those little bubble
God,
guns.
those little fake things to
that
play
they
with.
didn't
Yeah,
have-
it was like,
And it was supposed to be like, Phil, and this is, I don't think everything was in camera. I don't
Yeah.
think you were like going to be doing
yeah, there was no, but right in camera that back then, yes. Just like, I compared to Alien that way. That way, Alien was all done in camera. There was no CGI. So it's as good as Alien, at least, Captain Boy. No, but yeah, they had bubble guns, and now that I think about that, that's I think two things.
But we
One,
did shoot that scene.
Yeah, that was shot.
We
It did-
actually
yeah.
spent a day
But
on
like
that.
the set looked bad, and there weren't enough bubbles, if you
Right,
remember.
right.
With our bubble machines that I think you can buy in special effects,
Yeah,
but there wasn't. But
Party City.
yeah, Party City.
I
That was
know.
one of those where I really felt that
You know.
these people are. This is like a fuck you to us.
Yeah.
And then,
No, there was a prop guy, like.
yeah. And where was I the day that I would assume someone said, look, take me in pre-production. Okay, Adam said today we're going to do the bubble test. I don't remember anything about a bubble
Right,
test,
right.
and I didn't ask. So it's
Yeah.
on me too. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of shit like that.
Did you hold on to any props? Do you have any props in your archives?
Yeah, we have a couple of props. I've actually I remember going to one of my daughter's classes to a show and tell, and I brought a miniature version of my satchel that I wore with a miniature plate. It was miniature because it was on the doll of me at the end. And for some reason, I thought her class would be interested in the plate of little fish stick. I brought that out, and it was just, a bunch of, 8th graders just kind of staring. So,
And you thought, my daughter, I'm
they're
going to be a
going to
hero.
think this is cool.
I'm going to be a hero to my daughter, and then I will
Exactly.
say the miniature stuff of the boat. I love the way that looked. That's one of the things I really
Well, we
think
each,
that minute.
and we each ended up with one of those boats.
One of those
Yeah.
boats, and I think somewhere in storage I have the bowling ball belt. So, yeah, but yeah. You didn't take the wig.
Final questions we'll do here. Do down there.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
First of all, I'm a little starstruck. You've been a comedy icon since Letterman.
Yes. Say it.
It does mean a lot to me. It really does.
All right, and you faced me for that.
That's
Fuck you.
Yeah, come on, face him again.
Sorry.
That was for a second. Yeah. Give him the Sharon
Sorry,
Stone
I can't
shot.
see you. Where are you? Yeah.
I'm surprised that it was so, like everybody's saying, you guys were getting such negative reviews, because if someone was a fan of yours, it was like a natural progression, like you're hilarious on Letterman, Get a Life was great, and now that I know you're behind it, you're a comedy icon too. And
Yes, he is.
Really?
Yeah. I gotta say, this Adam, I mean, besides being my bestest friend in the whole world and really my brother, I mean, Adam and I met each other at Letterman, and we were both, Adam was raised in Harrisburg, and I was raised in New York City, and yet we suddenly, I mean, as soon as we met each other, we just knew, oh, yeah, we love each other. We're
we
just,
came from
you know,
families where our siblings we weren't close to. It was like we actually found a sibling that we
Yeah,
we were like,
and all
so-
our comedy references and all our movie references and anything that we liked was all really all the same. But I have never worked with a funnier,
kid,
more
don't
brilliant
stop,
writer
don't.
than Adam, and I would say that if he wasn't my best friend. Because he, and I'm sure Dave would say it too, that he's just an amazing writer. And if you read his book, will not attend. And if you haven't, you should.
Really? Thank you so much.
Because it's like,
Funniest
and
book ever.
I wrote a couple of books, and then Adam wrote this book, and I suddenly said, well, I am never writing a book again. Because it is just a hilarious, beautiful.
It's the
That's
funniest
I
book I've
love
ever
you.
read.
That's sweet.
No,
Thank
it's
you,
true.
Tom.
It
That
is.
is
It's
so.
serious.
I just, and I'm not being
No, and you're
falsely
gonna
honest
write
or whatever,
another
but
one, I think.
I feel the exact way, same way about. I don't know. I would be a different person if I hadn't met Chris. I think I'd be a very lonely person right now. Seriously.
Well, we still, I mean, we don't work together anymore because we're too scared to. But we have.
But we talk
you know,
all the time. I mean, it's
yeah,
not
we're
really that we're
always-
scared. It's like,
It's not that, it's just that, this is a story that's true, which is that, after Cabin Boy, we went in and we went into a network, I don't know, was it Fox?
Yeah,
I can't even remember where it was, and we pitched a TV show, and all the executives bought it in the room and said, great, and we walked out of there, and this is, like a month after Cabin Boy, and we were like, oh, I guess we're okay, that's great, okay, we got a show we can put together. And before we were in our cars, I guess you got the call from your agent that there was one executive who had not been in the room, who was more important than all the other executives who were in the room, and she said she liked the idea, but then she said, now, who are the guys? And they said, Adam Resnick, Chris Elliott, and she said, oh, not those guys.
Yeah, that's
No way,
Yeah,
no
no,
way.
they sort of bought it in the there
Yeah.
and then took it away from us in the
Yeah.
parking lot. That was
Right.
just another one little fun post Cabin Boy tales or whatever. But
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, hi guys.
hey,
Hi.
This is my first time seeing this movie, and
that's fascinating to me.
fucking loved it.
Hey, what? No, what'd you think?
I loved it.
Really?
Oh, that's
I
great.
was crying.
Thank you.
laughing.
That's
Oh,
a lot.
that's
so
nice.
well, thank you.
But also, I was wondering, did you at least get to go to Hawaii, or?
No, Marina Del Rey.
I think we fantasized the premiere would be in Hawaii.
Exactly. That's really sweet. That's nice to hear.
Thank you
and
so much.
Also interesting to hear.
And what's
Yeah.
interesting, and Chris and I often say this, and we'll never know, I wish I could see the movie just as someone who's never seen it before, to know what I would think of it, because I don't know what I think of it. I don't think it's as bad as people say. I don't think it's certainly flawed, and it's far from perfect, but I just always wonder, because I'm like kind of a snob, and so is Chris, and so is Tom, so it makes me feel good when Tom Scharpling likes the movie. I'm thinking, "God, maybe there's something there."
Well,
but I wish I could see the movie.
My
actually
wife
see it,
hadn't seen it until like 3 years ago, I guess. We did a screening of it, and that was the first time she had seen it, because she couldn't bring herself to see it.
She's like, I heard such
And
bad
she
things
loved
about it.
Yeah, yeah, she said, yeah, I hear it's not good. Why would I want to go see
But
it?
she did.
Yeah, she said it was great. She didn't, but she's my wife.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. Everybody here loves it.
Guys, thank you so
I mean,
much.
yeah. Thank you. This is like a therapy session. And also, I gotta again thank our dear friend Tom Scharpling, who had agreed to do this.
You guys are as important as anybody's been in my life of being a fan of comedy and a fan of good stuff, and I can't ever thank you guys enough for that. And thank you for everybody for coming out to this, and thank you to Adam Resnick and Chris Elliott.